What does a newborn nap look like? And what do you do if the only place that your baby will sleep is on you? Today, I'm sitting down with Dr. Aubrie theyre from Baby Sleep Doctor, and she's going to talk all about newborn naps. So that's what we're talking about today. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that every week I have Q&A Thursday. A question that I very often get is, what do I do if my baby will only sleep on me? I know that this is top of mind for a lot of new parents, and that's why I invited Dr. Aubrie here today to really help clarify what constitutes a newborn nap. What are we aiming for as far as, is it okay for the baby to sleep on us? Is that not the goal? So we really break that down. Now, if you don't follow me on Instagram, I hope you will. If you're new around here, my name is Valerie Trumbauer. I am a postpartum doula and a certified lactation counselor. I'm the creator of New Parents Academy. Over there, I love to help people prepare for life with a newborn. My goal is to give you resources that will help you to feel confident and prepared when your baby arrives. So let's get started. We'll dive in with Dr. Aubrie, and she'll tell us what we need to know about newborns and naps. Okay, so today we are talking about what happens when your baby just wants to nap on you. And Dr. Aubrie is the perfect person to speak to about this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. This is really common and very normal, and you should be enjoying your newborn snuggle. So there's nothing wrong with that. But babies get used to what they're introduced to. That's what I like to say because
That's huge. And I feel like it's like we need a billboard that says that. And the first time that I heard you say it, I felt like it was huge. They're used to what they're introduced to is big.
Yes, and it's important to keep that in mind because if we're only holding them, of course they're never going to want to be put down, but newborns don't come into the world expecting to only be held or rocked or, they need to be introduced to different things. And so if you want your baby to inevitably sleep in a crib or bassinet, you've got to put them down sometimes. So I just say to put them down for one nap a day, put them down and just let them get used to that setting.
Okay, so kind of breaking that apart, I know as a doula working in people's homes, very often people feel guilty for what they're doing wrong. So by no means is the intention here to be like, yep, you're screwing up your baby. It's more to say like, let's look at the future and see what you're hoping down the road. It's great to like snuggle with your 2-week-old. Do you want to snuggle with your 2-month-old every time they nap? And if the answer is no, then that's where we're trying to introduce them early on to other things. Is that right?
Yeah, you said that perfectly. You want to look at what your ideal is. Do you want to always contact nap with your baby when you have a 6-month-old and they won't sleep unless they're on your body? Because that's where it leads to. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people, that's what they want to do. That's what they love. They want to lay down for every single nap. Some people can't. You might have older children, or you have to go to work, or you want to take a shower.
Right. Or you want to take a shower. You want to eat a meal that doesn't.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so what's the ideal for the future? And if it is for them to sleep in their own sleep space, then you want to just get them used to it and encourage it, as soon as possible. And it can just be, like I said, one nap a day. And then for the rest of those naps, snuggle them. It's totally fine.
Right. Now, I say to people, because people will say, as soon as I lay the baby down, he wakes up. And there's something to be said, like if you're cozied up cuddling with someone, laying on a firm, flat surface feels very different. So can you give us an idea of, okay, this is a newborn, so this baby is sleeping a lot. Likely as you were feeding the baby, maybe he fell asleep, or you were holding him just walking around for those 20 minutes that you're keeping him upright after eating. The baby's asleep. So can you kind of talk about what that transition looks like to laying him down and how to make that work?
Yeah, so there's two ways to do it. You can, of course, like you said, newborns are always asleep. So if they're already falling asleep and you put them down, if they only stay down for 5 minutes, that's okay. That's still successful. They laid down, they had their eyes closed, they stayed asleep. You can also try putting them down while they're still kind of drowsy. So they're not totally asleep yet. And what you're doing is watching their wake window. So newborns can only be awake for about 45 minutes to 60 minutes in the first 8 weeks. So keeping that in mind, you're avoiding them getting overly tired. And by doing that, it makes it easier when you put them down for them to stay down for a little while. And again, it might be a 20-minute nap, or it might be a 2-hour nap. You don't really know, but any amount of laying down time in their crib or bassinet is success.
Okay. Yes. And sometimes it's like, if you lay him down and he starts to fuss, give him a second. We're not like, this isn't cry it out for your newborn, but maybe there's like gentle rocking, or you're shushing in his ear, like thinking like, he just woke up.
give it a second, right?
Give it a second because also newborns only have two stages of sleep, light sleep and deep sleep. And so even if they are fussing, which is different from crying, if they're fussing and kind of moving and squirming around, they might still be asleep actually. So sometimes we like pick them up right away and then we wake them. So
Right.
definitely give them a second. Just give them a second. Or, if you have a pacifier, see if that works to help kind of lengthen the amount of time. But absolutely pause. You don't have to let them cry, but just pause.
Okay, perfect. So where does a newborn nap happen? Like, because people are like, what, babies are sleeping a lot, like we talked about, but if we're going to aim to say like, okay, this is a nap. After I feed him the second time in the morning, we're going to call this a nap. Are they headed into try it in the crib? Are we going back to, your room where you have a bassinet? What should this look like?
So there's no right or wrong way to do it. What I recommend in the first 8 weeks, especially, is to keep it bright and noisy so that babies do get used to having some noise in the house. And we don't want newborns sleeping all day long because they have to eat regularly. So it's totally okay to put them in the crib or bassinet, but it's also okay to have them just sleep in the, swing while you're observing them. You're around to watch
Right.
and it's safe sleep. But regardless, it doesn't have to be back into a dark room or the sound machine on because we don't want to encourage them actually to sleep the day away. So
Right. Is there a point at which we're waking them up? Like, are we, okay, my newborn is asleep. He's been asleep for an hour and a half. Is that okay?
yeah, that's totally okay. I mean, I think it kind of goes into probably what you talk about too, as far as
Yeah.
eating regularly, but newborns often can have day and night confusion. They don't know what is happening. They're new people here, so they don't understand day or nighttime. And so if they're sleeping all day long, they're going to wake up all night long to eat. So what we want to do is encourage them to wake often during the day, eat as much as possible
Right.
so they start to, on their own, lengthen their night sleep. So you do want to wake them probably around 2 to 3 hours of nap time.
Right. So for that feeding, and that's how I explain it to people is if we picture this baby, this day as 24 hours, they have to eat so much. Let's try to get a lot of that to happen during the daytime
Right.
so that they're not catching up in that night window. So
Right.
we're still waking. In a lot of cases, this baby is not back to their birth weight. So we're waking at that point anyway, because the doctor has said 2 to 3 hours. So I think that's worth, it's not just like my baby's a good sleeper. He's been in asleep for
Right.
3+ hours or
No, and that's great. That's great, but it will backfire in the night, and you'll have a 2-month-old who is still waking up a ton in the night and not really eating enough during the day. So you want to kind of correct that early
right.
on.
Or you'll have a baby that didn't get to their weight gain because
Right.
now they're sleeping longer stretches.
Absolutely. And if there's any weight issue, of course, more feedings are important.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I talk a
Absolutely.
lot about that. Okay, so I think that is really helpful to know that transition. Now, you did touch on, I just want to go back to this because I think sometimes people will hone in on this. The baby falls asleep in the swing. This is like a tricky situation because we know that the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that the baby's sleeping on a firm, flat surface. So do you make that transition each time that the baby falls asleep? But with a newborn, it gets tricky because you're like, every time I put him in his swing, he falls asleep.
Right. You can wear the baby in a sling, just wrap them up and wear them while you're folding laundry if that's more helpful to you. Or if you put them down for a nap, but then they woke up after that 5 minutes,
Right.
in the bassinet, go ahead and finish the nap on your body if you need to do that.
On the swing. Okay. And so sometimes I have people who will say, my baby does take a pacifier. As soon as I lay the baby down, he spits his pacifier out. Is that just like, what are your thoughts on that?
So, not all babies take a pacifier, so it's not a necessary thing, right? And over time, pacifiers can become a problem. They can actually lead to short naps and they can cause night waking. So if your baby is not needing it to sleep, that's an okay thing. And I always say that pacifiers and sleep props are for soothing anyway and not for sleeping. So if the pacifier is being used, it's best to use it to help them calm down, get snoozy,
Right.
fall asleep. And if it falls out of their mouth, take it out of their mouth. That's
Right.
totally
It's
fine.
not like you want that. You don't want to encourage that. And yeah, that's kind of, I think that's important to realize because people are like, no, he takes a pacifier. But if the pacifier is falling off, then you're trying the other type, you're gently rocking, you're shushing,
Right.
all of those things.
Right. Yes, I totally agree with that.
So do you turn on, like, as far as sound machines go, and we have like sound machines in every room of our house, I feel like, do you, each time the newborn's falling asleep, does the sound machine need to be on? It's not really necessary in the very beginning, right?
No, not in the first 8 weeks. The first 8 weeks is all about noisy. So sound machines are noisy, but it's a different kind, right? Sound machines are for keeping noise out, but we want it to be, that the joke is vacuum while the baby's sleeping, but have the older siblings running around and the TV on and people talking. That's all really important for newborn naps, actually.
Yeah, just for newborn naps. And then I know you talk further once you get into like, if sleep training is what you're aiming for, then you have resources for that. We're not trying to sleep train a newborn by any means. I tell people, I'm not saying that as a challenge, like that you can't. You do not want to be sleep training it. You do not want to be sleep training a newborn, but you have resources, and I will link them below for when the time does come when that is a possibility. And what do you see, or what guidelines do you give as far as when they could even start working with those resources that you have?
So I do have a newborn sleep guide, but it is, like you said, not sleep training, because what you can do, I think that parents don't understand, myself included, when you leave the hospital, you're like, this baby, I guess, will sleep when they're tired, right? And they'll wake up and they'll drop their feeds on their own and we'll see what's going on. But it is possible to actually set a foundation that's healthy for newborns, and you can be working on it and practicing it. It's not sleep training. You don't sleep train until they're 4 months old. So you wouldn't even go into that until they're 4 months or older. And there's no right or wrong time. You can do it anytime. Some people ask, like, I have a 2-year-old, is it possible? Yes, of course, it's possible. But for newborns, you can definitely set a healthy foundation where you understand their tired cues and you understand their sleep needs, which is really important, but it's not sleep training until 4 months.
Right, until 4 months. And I generally give the guideline that you want to speak to your pediatrician real quick. You want to make sure the baby's weight gain is where they want it to be before you start encouraging them to sleep longer stretches. Do you agree with that?
Well, absolutely. And sleep training doesn't mean that you're even taking out the night feeds. So for people who are concerned, like, well, I breastfeed and he still needs, absolutely, you can still feed and teach sleep skills. That's what sleep training is. It's not neglecting your baby. It's not taking away feeds that they still truly need. It is about understanding when they're tired and helping them fall asleep without outside assistance so that they can continue to sleep well.
Yes, perfect. So well said. Thank you so much. I will link your resources below, and it has been so helpful to have you answer this question for us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I hope that helped to answer a lot of the questions that you have about newborns and napping. Don't forget that every Thursday over on Instagram, I have Q&A Thursday, so be sure and follow me there. And if you are preparing to welcome a baby, you are pregnant or you're preparing to adopt, be sure and click below. I have products and resources that will help to make that transition go more smoothly. But don't go anywhere. I have another video coming up that will be super helpful too. So see you there.